Thank you, Speaker. I rise to make a brief contribution to debate on the Workers' Compensation Amendment Bill 2025. Speaker, I'm someone who values balance, who believes that good governance means weighing competing interests carefully, listening and acting not from ideology but from principle and pragmatism. That's why I cannot support the bill in its current form without sensible amendment. Let me be clear, I acknowledge the need for reform. The workers' compensation system is under pressure and we do need to make it sustainable. Businesses, and particularly small businesses, need certainty and they need relief from rising premiums. That is a conversation worth having. But this bill does not represent a balanced solution. Punishing people with psychological injuries is not the right way to do it. It tilts the scale too far, and it does so at the expense of the very people who have held our communities together, our nurses, teachers, aged care workers and public sector workers. Raising the threshold for mental health claims to 31% whole person impairment in the way it is being proposed in this bill presents challenges. It's a blunt instrument being used where the understandings of the nuances are required, where the understanding of nuances is required. Mental illness is not less serious because it's harder to quantify on paper. It doesn't disappear because the government wants to make it more difficult to prove. And it certainly doesn't get better when support to injured workers is denied or delayed. This change risks pushing vulnerable workers out of the system altogether. Instead of helping them heal, receive treatment and returning them back to work, this bill is putting the burden back on them by punishing them for coming forward, for seeking help, for suffering the very real consequences of trauma and burnout in the workplace. This is especially concerning for our nurses and teachers. And I want to put on the record that I met a group of local nurses a few weeks ago. I sat and I listened to them with two of my parliamentary colleagues. I acknowledge the members for Newtown and Balmain. We share a local health district. Those nurses gave up their time on a rainy Thursday night to meet with us and tell us how they were feeling about their jobs. I was invited by those local nurses and I really appreciate their invitation. They were honest with me about the issues they're experiencing in hospitals right across metropolitan Sydney, but particularly within the Sydney Local Health District. They told me that they're under immense pressure in the health system. They are tired, overworked and under-resourced, and they need to know that they have a workers' compensation system that is there for them if they need it. These are professions marked by stress, exposure to violence and emotional exhaustion. They are often asked to do more with less. The impact on their mental health is well documented and well publicised, especially in a post-COVID world. And yet this bill will make it harder for these workers, those nurses that I met with, to access the support they deserve. Mr. Speaker, the solution cannot be to raise the bar so high that almost no one can reach it. If the government is serious about reform, we must start with prevention. We must invest in safer workplaces, early intervention systems that identify problems and issues before they are to escalate, better literacy and understanding of mental health, and support services that are readily available and accessible. Prevention. This is not about choosing between workers and small businesses. It's about finding a path that supports both. We can build a system in this state that is financially responsible and fair. That's the kind of reform I stand for. That's the kind of politics I practice, to stand on the side of people. I say to the government, and I acknowledge the minister's presence in the chamber today, that there are things we agree on, like the need to reform workers' compensation to get a financially viable system. But I think conducting a proper consultation that involves communities, that genuinely involves stakeholders, so we can get something that is balanced, compassionate and sustainable. I thank the House for the opportunity to contribute to debate.